is Absolute Radio, live from the Edinburgh Festival.
Absolute Radio.
Hello, this is Lee Mack on the Absolute Radio podcast, and I've got Emily and Gareth with me. I'm filling in for Frank Skinner, who unfortunately has got a sore throat. And should we summarise the highlights of what happened on the show before they listen?
Yeah, you did really well.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. I thought you two were particularly professional.
Yeah, we were great. Obviously,
you were great. And I think
it's hard to pick highlights
on a radio show.
I think, well, no, just because it was all just of such high quality.
I know what you mean. When you listen to some of the other stations, they always do those little jingles about what they did that morning. This morning I had cornflakes. You didn't have cornflakes. I did. And it's always like, what's the point of that? What's the point? We don't want to know that. You can't have highlights of casual chat, can you?
Can I tell you what the personal highlight was for me?
What?
Greg Behrendt.
Oh, just listen in for this bit of romance that's about to happen on this particular podcast that we like to call Emily's Eating Disorder.
Shut up, Lee.
Absolute
Radio.
So this is Lee Mack filling in for Frank Skinner, who unfortunately has got a sore throat this morning and can't be with you. But, and this is a good link, two people who haven't got a sore throat are Gareth and Emily. Who
Hello.
Are back as
Hi.
ever. How are you?
Very well. Poor old Frank. It does sound a bit like he's in the Priory suffering from exhaustion, but I should stress he's not.
That would be a good exclusive to start the show with. Frank Skinner can't be with us this morning because he's in the Priory, ladies and gentlemen, with Noel Gallagher.
No, he's just been working really hard and he's got a sore throat, poor Frank. We love you and we wish you better.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it? What about you, Gareth? Do you love Frank? Do you wish him better?
I love Frank with all my heart, and I wish that yeah.
I think if he's listening, he'd probably rather have a remedy for his sore throat than your love, if I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
Yes.
What remedies can we suggest? Have we got any suggestions for a good sore throat remedy?
I like a fisherman's friendly.
Can I do the punchline for that? Or
I'm sure you
let people
will.
fill in the gaps on that one?
Isn't that just a sore throat tablet?
Yeah.
A fisherman's friend still going?
Oh, I believe so. Yeah, they were in the 70s when I last checked.
What about lockets?
Oh, yeah.
Lockets are good. Strepsils, I like a Strepsil.
What we used to do is put a locket in the cup and then pour the boiling water onto the locket. If you didn't have a Lemsip to hand,
Yeah.
pour it on, wait till it's not too hot, because honey gets very hot inside a Lemsip,
Yeah.
inside a locket. And then you let it sort of brew for a while, have a gargle and put some salt in. Yeah.
Salt? Oh.
Yeah, well, that's just to annoy the ladies when we're kissing. Talking of kissing, we bonded yesterday, didn't we? We didn't kiss.
We
obviously.
didn't kiss.
We
You're
talking
married.
About
married
you
couple.
and Emily here, not the three of us.
No. Yeah, there wasn't some sort of menage a trois that early on. No, but we bonded, didn't we, by going to see shows together at the Edinburgh Festival.
No, you just stalked me all day. You followed me round.
I think standing at your bathroom window at 4 a.m. and shouting out what I feel isn't stalking. It's expressing my desires. But we sort of suddenly were put together, weren't we, in a day? And I learnt a lot about you very early on, which was quite interesting.
Did you? What did you learn?
Oh, yeah, you'll learn a lot about Emily early on. That's how it goes.
I learnt that you have strange eating habits to start with,
I do.
because you told me that sometimes when you're on your own, that you like to eat. I'll let you explain it, because to me, I think,
it's so
I like the fact that
embarrassing.
I think the fact that you think this is normal was the bit that I found.
I do. I just said, does everyone do this? Does everyone eat weird things? Because, when you're on your own, there's no ceremony, is there, with eating? So you just eat strange things directly from the fridge, maybe squatting. Or is that just me?
Squatting.
At the fridge, yeah. And
I
you
think
just-
that this could be an eating disorder. You squat to the fridge and just start putting your hands in and shovel it in your mouth.
I might have sometimes. So sometimes, for example, I might have egg whites and just put some sugar in it and not bother to cook it as a meringue. Is that weird?
It isn't normal, and it's probably
Okay.
phenomenally unhealthy in terms of the salmonella problem. I would have thought you have to cook an egg white.
Yeah.
But you're eating egg white. Egg white with sugar doesn't constitute meringue. It has to go in the oven for at least... I don't know about cooking, but I know it has to be cooked.
It's like a half meal that I'll have, basically.
And also, egg white's got quite a snotty consistency, hasn't it? You're basically eating sweet white snot, aren't you?
Yeah, how do you gag it down? That's really unpleasant.
And it's horrible eating, because I tried that Rocky thing. You know in Rocky where he eats the raw eggs?
Oh, yeah.
I've tried that, and I did the 5 eggs in the cut. And the problem is once you start, there's no backing out. Because once the first bit goes down, it all follows.
Oh.
It just follows down, and you can't stop it.
Like a big string. Like a big stringy, gloopy mess.
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
Sometimes in the morning before the show, Emily will heat a whole ostrich egg. Just all down in one.
That's a nice start to the day, isn't it? And even more shocking than that, maybe people, we've been asked to, by the producer, to get people to text in, so maybe people can text in their
weird
strange
things.
eating things. And also maybe a remedy for Frank would be nice.
Yeah.
That would be nice. And I also think a good thing, another thing I learned about you, Emily,
What?
is the game Shouldn't But Would, which I'd never heard of.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's people you shouldn't fancy, but you do.
Well, not just fancy, but it's people you would consider going to bed with, but you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Which, I understand the concept of that game, but I can't understand anyone that would choose Gaddafi.
I just said that in privately. I can't believe you're telling everyone.
Gaddafi? Gareth, have you got anyone that you shouldn't really... Please don't say any more Middle East leaders.
I've also got Henry VIII, but everyone knows about
Henry
that.
VIII. And mine is Judi Dench, although she's not too bad.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not shouldn't but would.
Who's
Shouldn't
yours,
but
Lee?
have.
This is Absolute Radio, live from the Edinburgh Festival.
Absolute Radio.
Yeah, what about Thora Hird for shouldn't but wouldn't? But would.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but she's a funny woman. I used to like Thora Hird, and I think there's something appealing about her. And also, when she whisks you upstairs to bed, you've got a lift, haven't you? Because you can sit on that chair.
Yeah, that's
that's attached to the banister. And that's always what I look for in a woman.
And she'd
Easy
give you-
access to the upstairs.
She'd give you one of those personal alarms so you'd know help was on its way. If you had a fall.
Actually, a lot of women I've dated have had those personal alarms at some point. Usually after I've met them. Yeah. Coming up in the show later on, we have Greg Behrendt, who you love, don't you, Emily?
I absolutely...
Is it Behrendt? Is how you pronounce his surname?
Greg
Behrendt.
Behrendt, just say it in American accent.
He's got one of those names you have to have an American accent to pronounce, don't you? Because
Yeah.
it's spelled Behrendt. Behrendt.
B-E-H, Lee.
What did I say?
H.
Yeah, well, I've never bought into that concept.
I haven't yet.
The idea that you don't... Every letter surely starts with the letter that it's supposed to be. You can't drop the H in H. People say hotel. You
No,
know,
it's
and
H.
herbs.
It's H.
It's H.
No. Are we just going to argue about this for the next 2 hours?
I don't care what the official rules are. Okay, Skinner's not here now. It's herbs and hotel and H.
Frank
okay?
says H.
Does he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's because if you keep saying if you drop the H, you end up with a sore throat. Don't you? That's been proven. It makes you ill. If you don't agree with me, you end up with an illness. That's how I used to chat these women up. That would be my opening line. You don't agree with me, love, you get an illness. What can I get you to drink? Oh, come on, Thora, just a sherry, I used to say. So, so Greg Behrendt. Now, Greg is actually one of these people that is massive in America, and it'd be fair to say he's not quite as big over here, but he's getting bigger. But he's huge in America, isn't he?
Oh, he is.
And you were absolutely
This was
amazed to meet
this
him.
is like Mahatma Gandhi coming on the show. And
Is
that's-
Mahatma Gandhi a shouldn't but would? Yeah?
He might be. No, Greg, to me, he's changed my life. I will save that for when he comes on. I'm going to tell him face to face.
Okay.
Okay?
He changed your life or saved your life?
Well, both maybe, but he's changed my life.
He's changed your life because he's the author of a very well-known book called He's Just Not Like Into You, which has been turned into a film, hasn't it?
Yeah. When I mentioned that to you yesterday, you said you were going to write a similar book called It's Okay, I'm Married, Love.
Well, yeah, but I think it's fair. I thought, that was a message to you because I felt that when we met you, there was a certain spark that you thought something could happen here, and it was my way of letting you down gently.
Oh my God! Don't rate yourself.
Don't do what to myself?
Don't rate yourself.
Oh, well, I'm just saying, I felt there was a spark that, listen, if I'd have been single, it would have been, something could have happened, but the marriage immediately stopped that.
Okay.
And also Eric Morecambe stopped it, didn't it?
Yeah.
Because I must point out that Eric Morecambe was the play we went to see.
We did.
Together.
But that you followed
we
me
weren't
too.
just stood together trying to get off of each other. Someone came over and went, "What are you doing, silly man?" And they sort of slapped me around the face. Hey, she's got short, fat, hairy legs. Don't go near her. No, it was the play about Morecambe, which we'll talk about, which was fantastic, wasn't it? We enjoyed that, didn't we? Didn't we?
No, I didn't.
You didn't enjoy it?
No, I'm really sorry. I've got to be honest.
Why?
We'll discuss it.
You're talking about the man I love here.
I know.
Okay, well, that's something to discuss during the show that you didn't... This first date didn't go well at all, did it?
Absolute
Radio.
We're taking your texts on 8 12 15 on cures for Frank Skinner's throat. If you've just tuned in, Frank can't be with us this week because, unfortunately, he's got... what is it? What's the ailment? Just a sore throat, or has it got a name?
Yeah, he's just got a sore throat.
Well, give it a bit of
I don't
glamour.
mean to sound quite so defensive about it.
He's
but-
just got a sore... That suggests that you're having a go at him for not turning up for work. He's just got a sore throat. I've got sore legs and I walked into work. That's the tone, if you don't mind me saying.
Okay, I think it's like strep throat, we'll call it.
Okay, well, if you've got cures for Frank's throat, we could take your text, please, on 8 12 15. And also we're taking your text on weird food that you eat when you're on your own, because Emily, as well as liking Gaddafi
And
seems to
having
like egg white and sugar.
a massive crush on Yuli, apparently,
Yeah.
which I've just discovered.
Well, it probably helped that I turned up for that show yesterday dressed as a Middle East leader. That helped, didn't it?
Covered in egg white.
Yeah. I didn't.
As well.
I didn't know what to wear, so I grabbed an old tea towel, put it on my head, and did a Yasser Arafat impression. And as luck would have it, there was a bit of egg white on the tea towel. And as far as she was concerned, that was it. She was in.
It was my fantasy.
Can I just say, Gareth, you've just showed me the weirdest thing in whilst that song was on.
Yeah.
And basically, Gareth's got asthma.
Yes.
And that's not. I presume your family know. That's not the first they've heard of that, is it?
No, this
I'm not
is
announcing
true.
something
No,
that they
it's-
don't know. Okay.
I think the public can cope with that news.
Yes, the public after the. It didn't top the Noel Gallagher story this morning, did it?
No, it wasn't.
In other news, Gareth's got asthma.
But I think from listening, people would gather I've probably got asthma.
Would they?
And allergies,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Are you very?
Yeah.
Were you a sickly child?
I'm a bit of a sickly child.
Are you?
A bit of a sickly grown-up.
Do you get lots of ailments?
He's like a sort of Victorian child that has consumption or something. It's that
Oh,
kind of-
brilliant!
Yes,
You
I've
should
got
do
the
his
gripes.
PR. Should put that on your poster. The Edinburgh leaflet.
Going on my
Come and see
poster
this
next
comedian,
year.
Gareth. He's like a sickly child from a Dickensian era. you met a great leafleter yesterday, didn't you, Emily?
I did. I saw this woman going, "What's this show like?" And I'm not going to say who the comic was that this guy was promoting. And he went, "Honestly, it's really not that offensive." Is what
What a way to promote a show that it's not that offensive. You know, the only surely it would be the opposite. You would only say it if it was offensive.
I know.
Go and see the show, but just so you know, it's a little bit offensive. You know. Oh, that'd be a good idea, actually. If leafleters in Edinburgh actually were more honest. Instead of shouting out 5 stars the Scotsman, if they say, "Come and see Mr. Chuckles," it's a strong 5-minute opener, but then it sort of tails off. You know, I'm not going to lie. It is only 8:50. What do you expect? You've never heard of him.
Come and see this show. I think it's actually morally wrong.
Come and see Gareth Richards. He's like a Dickensian sickly child. There's a chance he might vomit on you. You know. Anyway, so Gareth's got asthma.
Yeah, I've got this special thing that helps me take it. So you have the little.
Yeah.
This is you have to describe things
What-
for radio with. A
Yeah,
certain
what's the thing?
clarity.
What's your standard one called?
I've got it's an inhaler.
An inhaler. The
And then
little
I've-
blue things, yeah?
And then I've got a thing that joins onto it. That's like a little air chamber that goes on the front, and it's got a special thing it stops you sucking too hard.
But this is what I find bizarre.
Yeah, so if I
it's
suck
like an
too
alarm
hard-
system, isn't it?
Yeah, it's to make you suck it slowly and make sure you get all of the medicine. But
Right.
if you suck
It's
too hard,
horrible. It gives me the creep.
if you suck it too hard, it does this.
That's unbelievable. If it breaks into harmonica.
Why does it do that?
That's also the sound my lungs make if I don't take the medicine.
Do you think that's why Bob Dylan always sounds so breathy? It turns out he's got asthma. After he's played the harmonica, he goes, "Wah, wah, hey, what about that?" Bob Dylan has asthma, ladies and gentlemen. The cutting edge news on Absolute Radio. So, so we're taking your text on weird foods. You got any weird foods, Gareth?
Well, I eat when I'm on my own. What I like to, it's not a weird food, but I eat it in a slightly. You know when you have crisps, and I have each individual crisp, and I lick all the flavour off before
crisp?
eating it. Yes.
Oh, that's like a serial killer. That's horrible.
That is odd. Aren't you left with just a very soggy piece of potato?
Yeah, goes down nice.
I've got one, Lee.
You don't after you've licked them, you don't put them back in, do you?
No, I don't.
I wouldn't want to go around to your house and go, "They haven't got any flavour,
And
these crisps."
I obviously can't do
Oh, I've
it.
licked them off. I've licked the flavour off. I'm sorry. Once I've licked them off, I put them back in.
I can't do it if my wife's in the house because she just won't let me. She
Oh,
thinks it's repulsive.
She sounds a bit intolerant, doesn't she? Not letting you-
I'm not
Do
surprised.
you know what mine is? Do you know what my weird food
What?
on mine is? This is nice, and it'll sound horrible, but you've got to try it. Pot noodle sandwich.
That is disgusting.
No, it's really nice. What you do is you get the... Well, you know, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? You get your pot noodle, but you've got the key. The key is to drain off the excess liquid, because otherwise it will soak through the bread
Yeah.
and you'll end up all over your hands. You drain off all the excess liquid, you put the pot noodle, and it's got to be proper chavvy white bread. Your really cheap white bread.
That's really put me off. I don't fancy you anymore.
See,
Even
you
if
admit it now. Thank you.
Live from the Edinburgh Festival. Absolute Radio.
Gareth, you're a comedian at the Edinburgh Festival, aren't you?
Yes.
And how's it going? You've had a good week?
I'm exhausted.
Are you?
It's
That's that
been,
20 minutes a day. It kills you, doesn't it? Any coal miners listening? You want to try doing 20 minutes a day? You'd soon be suffering then.
I did 2 different shows. I did.
Oh, you've done 40 minutes. Sorry, I
an
take
hour
it back.
and 20 minutes a day. Well, last week we talked about how I'd had people thrown out of one of my shows.
I heard
and
the
they
show.
got quite violent.
Yeah.
And then in my other show, I also had to ask people to leave, and they went out as good as gold. It was 2 big drunk men, But then they went away and thought, we could have got angry about that. And then they came back and just shouted us and screamed at us and actually started coming around the audience to beat us up. And some audience members stepped in. They stood up and stood between us and the men.
I mean, because, you know, for people that haven't visually seen you, it would be fair to say you're wiry, shall we say?
Me and the people.
Really?
Well, no, you're wiry. It's true, though, isn't it? I think Gareth would be the first to say that you're wiry, wouldn't you? You wouldn't.
Well, wiry suggests some muscle.
You'd say less than wiry.
I'd say slight.
Slight,
perhaps.
Yeah, slight.
And,
you're a slight.
And I do it with someone called Henry, and we both wear cardigans. We're cardigan wearers, and I think the audience members just looked at us and thought they're going to die.
And is this other fella tough?
No, both of us were really not very tough.
And were they sort of slightly?
They were massive.
Were they bruisers?
They were. We had no chance.
Look, it's a word I'm trying to avoid. I'll just get straight to it. Were they Scottish?
They were Scottish.
Right, well, that's what we were all thinking.
Okay.
So I've said it now. It's out there. All right. Were they Scottish, gentlemen?
This is Edinburgh now! You don't miss, we came in here to have a laugh!
Oh, they weren't Scottish. Oh, sorry, I take it back, they weren't. It sounded a little bit Middle Eastern there, and Emily suddenly thought, that's a bit Gaddafi-esque.
I perked
Yes,
up.
please.
Hey, Lee, we've had some texts in about the weird food.
Oh, good.
We've had, hi, I love to eat cheese and onion crisps soaked in vinegar. Try it, it's lovely. John and Wilston.
Do you know what they'd really like? Salt and vinegar crisps.
Yes, that's a good idea.
That comes with vinegar.
Or, as you call them in your house, crisps.
Yeah.
I'll get rid of that salt and vinegar flavour and just eat the potato.
And there's another one suggesting frankfurters with strawberry jam. Don't knock it till you try it. P.S. Emily's voice is amazing. Is she as good looking as she sounds?
What?
Awkward silence. Says it all.
Yes, you are as good looking as you sound.
Thank you.
Yes. To me, you sound like Bella Remberg.
Oh, Lee!
Listen, I'm telling you now, Bella Remberg is on my list of shouldn't but would. Because for anyone under the age of 38 who doesn't remember Bella Remberg, she was the rather large lady in Russ Abbott's Madhouse
Oh,
and
this
Russ
is
Abbott's
nice.
sketch show.
Thanks.
Yeah, but you're saying that. I found her quite when she did Wonder Woman. Do you remember she used to call it Blunder Woman, didn't she?
Yeah.
That was. Is it just me, or did that got me a bit? There's, a Gaddafized, as it's now known in the industry. So keep your texts coming in. It's on 8, 12, 15 about your weird foods or a cure for Frank's poor little throat.
Absolute
Radio.
You're listening to Absolute Radio with Lee Mack filling in for Frank Skinner. We have Gareth and Bella Emily Emberg with us. I think that's quite a nice, catchy name. It's not.
Bellamy.
Bellamy.
Bellamy Emberg.
No. You don't look like David Bellamy. Suggesting a woman looks like Bella Emberg is pushing your luck. But saying she looks like David Bellamy, that's a bit too much.
I like all these 70s references that are really dating.
Oh, yeah. I know. I'm still down with the kids. I'd still cut it at the Edinburgh Comedy Festival. You can text us on 8, 12, 15 with your weird foods that you like to eat on your own. Have we got any those texts coming in, Gareth?
Yeah, we've got Frankie says he likes peanut butter and bean sprout sarnies.
Frankie.
I wonder if that's Frankie Skinner.
I think it
Might be.
is.
I think we've found the problem. We know what's wrong with his throat.
My sister eats dairy milk with pickled onions.
I'm not sure about that.
Things with chocolate are quite good. Have you ever had cheese and chocolate?
No, but do you know what
That
I do
works.
like to do? I like to eat a bag of crisps.
Yeah.
And then whilst the crisps are still in my mouth, get a piece of chocolate and put the chocolate in the mouth.
Yeah, no, that's
and
good.
combine the chocolate and the crisp. Which people used to say is disgusting, right? And I've been doing this since 1977, right? And then a couple of years ago, I noticed chocolate-coated crisps came on the market, didn't they?
Did they?
Yeah, they
That's
did.
true, yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
that's not true. Not chocolate-coated crisps, just chocolate in the shape of crisps. I'm not imagining that, am I?
No,
There's-
there was
you know
something
the tube.
inside, was there?
What's the tube of crisps? Can we say that? Now?
Yeah,
Oh,
Pringles.
Pringles. Yeah.
Yeah, like them.
Yeah, you open it up, and instead of crisps, it's the same shape, but it's bits of chocolate.
Was there?
Yeah, I suggest you get a packet of Pringles and a packet of chocolate ones and combine the two, put it in your mouth, eat it.
I like ham tubes.
Is that a euphemism?
No, I get a slice of ham whilst I'm squatting at the fridge.
Is
And
that a
then-
euphemism?
And then I spread Philadelphia on it,
That's definitely a euphemism.
Cheesy ham tube.
and then I eat the ham tube. Is that
What-
weird?
what's with the squatting at the fridge thing? That suggests an eating disorder.
No.
Surely you can survive the 30 seconds it takes to walk from the fridge to the dining table to eat it with some dignity,
I've got-
rather than on all fours shoveling it in your mouth, like a scene from 8.5 Weeks, but on your own.
It's more Planet of the Apes. That's what
Planet
it's
of the
like.
Apes, that's a nice image. It's more monkey-esque, is it? And before anyone texts in, I know that they were apes, not monkeys.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want them sort of complaints on my first day. You know. I don't want the simian community texting in going, apes are different from monkeys. We're sick of this.
It just saves time, Lee, that's all. I'm busy. Don't have time for sitting down at dinner tables, all that ceremony.
But when you say squat, you mean you're not like, are you sitting on the floor and eating this food at the
I'm
fridge?
squatting in a sort of Vietnam veteran position.
With the fridge door open?
Yeah.
So easy access. You don't want to close the fridge.
Exactly, yeah.
And do people not come round and... I suppose if people came round and looked through the window, you would look like you're watching telly, because the light from the fridge would hit your face, and they'd just go, sitting a bit close to that telly. But it's a nice big telly, I'll give it that. She just seems to be concentrating on the bottom part of the telly, though. That's the only problem. So, yeah, keep your texts coming in. We're looking for a cure for Frank's throat, and the weird foods that you like to eat. We've got Greg... I can't say the surname. I can't say his surname. Greg Behrendt.
I think it's Greg Behrendt.
Greg Behrendt. Look, he's massive in America, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why he's not as massive here is that surname. He needs a more snappy name. There's
He is massive here.
What about... I know he's massive here, but he could be even more massive if he changed his surname to Leg. So he's called Greg Leg.
It's a terrible
It's
idea.
a perfect name. In the old days, right, in the 70s,
Well,
everyone had a catchy name.
If you'd like to suggest any new names for Greg, text in.
Yeah.
And we'll pitch them to him.
Yeah, and I think rhyming with... what about Greg
Yeah.
Egg?
That's awful.
Oh, it just sounds like he's got a stutter in it.
Greg Egg. That's awful.
Okay.
Greg.
Greg Shed. He brings on his comedy shed wherever he goes. Greg and his comedy shed.
He's not a 70s variety act. You know, he doesn't need a weird name.
Look, there's nothing wrong with weird 70s variety. It's what I've based my career on.
This is Absolute Radio, live from the Edinburgh Festival.
Absolute Radio.
Go on, say what you were going to say, because we were going to play a song we haven't got time for by MGMT, and I don't know much about music. I confess that.
You said, is MGMT coming up? And I think you thought it was a management meeting.
I did think that. I saw this in MGMT. I thought it said MGM management have been on the phone. They're not happy with the way this is going. And but it turns out it was a song. But it says management, and then it says kids, which is the name of the song. And I thought management was saying this is like kids running the show. Management says kids, yeah? Management says good, but no. Management says kids. Like that. So now we're talking about food, weird food you eat. Do you know what I noticed the other day? I was driving the car and eating, but I pulled over in a lay-by. I kept it safe.
No, you didn't.
I did.
Okay.
I've got children in the back. I'm not going to start having a roast dinner, am I, at the front? You know. Anyway, I couldn't eat when I'm driving, could I? Because I was on the phone. That'd be dangerous. So I pull over in the lay-by to have my pepperami, because that's my food of choice. The pepperami, right? Very oily. If you take the can we call it a sheet? You know the plastic.
Yes.
The sheet.
No.
Pepperami comes in a sheet. It does.
Sick.
Yeah, but it does. It comes in a little. You know what I mean? You take the wrapper off, and then inside it's got like a.
Please,
what is the word then? It's not plastic.
It's
Is
a
it?
wrapper.
It's not a wrapper. The wrapper's what you take off, and then inside the wrapper, between the wrapper and the pepperoni, there is another.
The greasy pepperami sheath, that's what it's
Thank
called.
you. It is though, isn't it?
It is.
Because pepperoni is phenomenally greasy. If you hold it, it's all over your hands, right? And you can't drive, even if you're in a lay-by with grease all over your hands. Now, the pepperami, I said to my wife, because this is how interesting I am, I said, let's play a game. It's a long drive to Edinburgh. I'll see if I can guess all the ingredients in a pepperami.
Oh, she's a lucky woman.
She is, yeah. Every morning she wakes up, she counts her lucky stars. As I wake up with pepperami and sheath in hand and say, time for the game, love. Right? What would you say is the number one ingredient in a pepperami? Now, I said water, right? That's wrong, so that's your clue. What would you say is the right answer to that?
Beef.
What?
Beef.
Oh, beef? I thought you said bees. Bees, surely. Beef? No,
Yeah.
not beef.
Beef.
No.
Oh, I've never.
It begins with P. Pepperami.
I've
That's the clue.
never eaten a pepperami. I don't
Pepper.
know in my life.
No,
it
it
pepper?
begins with P. It's pork.
Pork.
Oh, okay.
Now, this is the thing that got me. How much
Yeah.
pork would you say is in a pepperami? Percentage-wise.
Probably about 52.
I appreciate it. The look on your
60%.
face, you think, this is riveting. You know,
52%.
Frank never talks about the ingredients of a pepperami. Well, things are changing around here. Okay?
60%.
No, this is the weird thing. Do you know how much pork is in a pepperami? You look at the wrapper. It says, first ingredient, pork, brackets, 136%.
Well, that's
Or
impossible.
138%, sorry.
That's
How is
going
that
up.
possible to
That's
have
that's not possible.
138% pork in a pepperami?
Greg will know, because Greg knows everything. He'll
You
tell
love
us
Greg,
when he's-
don't you?
Yeah, I do.
What is this thing about you and Greg? You went to his show, didn't you?
Yeah, it was
This
brilliant.
This is Greg Behrendt. We'll talk about this in a minute,
Okay,
right?
okay.
Because Greg's coming up very soon. In the meantime, a bit of this.
Absolute.
Radio.
Lee Mack here, filling in for Frank Skinner. Lee Mack, who knows very little about music, as you're probably learning. Somebody who does know about music, though, he's got his own ska band, I've just learnt, is our guest, Greg Behrendt. Can we just clear something up? Because
Yeah,
we've been discussing
sure.
it. How do you pronounce your surname?
That was pretty close.
Oh.
It's like the word parent. Behrendt.
Behrendt.
Yeah.
See, I think you've
Yeah.
got one of those surnames that only an American can say.
No, in fact, being here is the only place where people get close.
Really?
Yeah, being in the UK, people have been very nice about it, and they've been very close. In America, it's Behrendt. Yeah, they want to say the H because that's.
You see-
How about Behrendt? Behrendt? One time a telemarketer called me Menderman. I'm like, dude, those aren't even my letters. Like, how high are you? What are you talking about, Menderment?
But I think it's a fair point that people will get confused because your surname is spelled Behrendt.
It's H, not H.
It's H with a her. I'm not going to go through this again.
I've not heard that before.
What
Yes.
does
But H.
Greg say? Because Greg's my Swami.
But Greg's going to say herb, isn't he? He's American. He's
Yeah,
going to
I'm gonna
cause
say
all
herb.
sorts of
Yeah, I'm gonna say
confusions
herb.
now.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you say hotel or hotel?
I say hotel.
Well, thank you. Doesn't everybody say hotel?
Yeah. We
Do you
mess
say
it up
hotel?
over in America.
Does
We
people
just-
drop the H in hotel as well?
Whatever Greg says, I'll do.
You really like
adorable.
Greg.
Yeah, I
You were
love
really
him.
really glad because we were just chatting off air then. As soon as he mentioned his kids, you sank a little bit in your seat because you thought, not another one. First Lee, turns out he's got kids. Now it turns
Yeah.
out Greg's got kids. Is
I know.
anyone out there
I'm
that I'm
sorry.
in love with available?
I love Greg
that
much
sort of
more
look.
than you, and I love that Greg loves his wife and kids, and that makes him even more special in my eyes.
Are you suggesting I don't love my wife and kids?
That seemed
just
the
hold it, Greg. Hold it,
implication.
Greg. Can we just get this cleared up? No, what you mean is you hope I don't love my wife and kids. That's different. That's
Yeah.
different, Emily. That's a different thing altogether.
It's never going to happen, Lee.
It
is
isn't. No. Greg.
You are adorable, though.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you really
Oh, Emily,
are.
sorry.
Yeah, I love my wife. That's why I'm looking at you, Lee.
Yes. I'm Emily.
Yeah.
Now,
Oh.
now you're doing a show at the Edinburgh Festival,
I am.
a fantastic show that Emily has been to see.
Yes.
She sat in the front row. I mean, how stalkery
did.
is that?
I know.
Called Love, Sex, Pudding, Death.
Love, sex, pudding, and death. Yes.
And death. Sorry, there's an and between pudding and death.
Yeah.
Okay, Love, Sex, Pudding, and Death. Is it?
It's just love, sex, pudding, death. Love, sex,
Is there a
pudding,
comma after love? Is it love, sex, pudding,
Pudding,
and death?
death,
Or is
yeah.
it love, sex, pudding, and death?
I don't like the way you've just said it. I should have done that. It's too late now. There's only 2 more shows left. But yeah, I like love. Well, I do love sex.
It's a comma after love, is it?
It's comma, 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 comma.
Well, not comma after
Chameleon.
and, is it? It's not love, comma, sex, comma, pudding, comma,
Yeah.
and, comma, death.
Yeah. No. Well, there's no and. It's love, sex, pudding, death.
Okay.
It's like the Godfather song, birth, school, work, death.
Don't talk to me about songs and music. I don't know what
Did
I'm
I
doing.
just throw you off the bus?
Oh,
I'm so sorry.
Did you throw me off a bus? Is that
Yeah,
an
that's
American?
what they just said. I'm gonna throw you off the bus. I didn't mean to.
You said it in a slightly threatening way, like, did I just throw you off a bus? Did I forget? Because I will. I will throw you off a bus.
I will throw you right off a bus.
Could you tell us? Unfortunately, I've not had a chance to see the show. I'd love to come and see because we have done a gig together in Montreal. We did. You're looking at me blankly. You don't
no,
remember.
no,
How
I do.
dare you? Get out of this studio immediately.
Greg meets lots of famous people.
It's
I'm
true.
sorry, Lee.
He's worked on Sex in the City. As if he's
Yeah.
going to
No, we
remember
did the,
a skinny-faced northern whippet face like me. He's not. We did a show in Montreal for a telly show. It was one of these local telly shows for Canada. It was low budget.
Yeah, I remember that.
There was
I do
about
remember
48 people on the bill.
Yes.
And about 12 people in the audience.
Yes.
And it didn't make us look good.
that. No, it didn't. It was like running your jokes for. It was like doing a dry run of your jokes.
It's the only television show I've ever done where at the end you get paid in cash.
Yeah,
That's
right.
unusual for a television show. You get an envelope with some cash in.
Yeah,
You're looking at me like you
it
didn't
was
get
just
paid
a
in
front.
cash.
Did I? I don't remember getting. Yeah, yeah. No, I do remember that. I
Yes.
remember that it was before a show, and then I thought I didn't because it was before a real show because it was like it was almost like a fake show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was a spoof, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
We're going to, just for people that may not know you over here, just to give you a recap, you of course wrote on Sex in the City.
Yeah, I was a consultant.
you were
I
a
didn't even have a pen. I just came in twice a week to
You consulted?
consult it. That's all I did.
That's great. What a job.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Just consulting. That's
Yeah.
what you're a sort of consultant, Emily. I've noticed on this show. You consult.
I'm the Greg consultant.
Yeah, it was seven women and 2 gay men were the staff, and I was the token straight guy.
Oh, nice.
I would come in and say that guy shouldn't have a purse.
And then you had a huge book in America called He's Just Not That Into You, which has been recently turned into a film. And the fact that you wrote that book is the reason why Emily is, well,
Right,
Yeah.
and I co-authored it. I wrote it with a woman, so I'm not
Liz.
the sole. Liz DiCillo.
you wrote it with a woman.
Yeah.
Did you really, or did she draw the pictures? Be honest. No, it's best we find out now. I don't want to, we might as well be honest about it. Did you do the bulk of the work? And she said, what about
Not
a
at
flower
all.
on the
No,
front
no,
page?
I actually- I would-
give her half the money. She'll only whinge.
I would only write the book if all I had to do was answer questions. So she asked me questions. It was basically that's what the book is me answering questions about relationships.
And did she co-write your stand-up show, Love, Sex, Pudding and Death?
She did not.
Right.
But because the book was successssful, I got to do Love, Sex, Pudding, Death here.
Would it be fair to say that it's a similar genre, a similar sort of themed show in terms of... Is it quite? Because you've got, from what Emily says, you understand women better than women do.
He really does. But you see, Greg gives you the kind of. It's quite. Would you say it's tough love? I would say, Greg, what you do, what you practice.
I guess I think it's just more like an honest way of looking at yourself, and I think and like I say during the show, it's applicable to both sexes. But the books are written for women because men don't buy books.
Right.
Of that nature. You know, guys don't get sad and go to Borders, get all weepy and go, I was looking for a book.
When I'm in Borders with my wife, I get weepy.
Yeah, well, I get that.
As my wife is filling up that bag.
Sure.
I mean, the basket. She doesn't shoplift. I'm not weepy because... No, my wife is a shoplifter. Why don't we just get this out now? My wife is a shoplifter.
Yeah.
Okay? But a good one.
Yeah.
Never been caught.
Yeah.
Live from the Edinburgh Festival. Absolute Radio.
Now, Greg Behrendt is with us, and he's the author of He's Just Not That Into You, a book for girls, would it be fair to say, or is it for men and women?
Well, I mean, I think you can read it as a guy and flip the scenarios because I think that they work for men. But like we said before the break, they don't make books for men. In the States, men don't read books. What happens is you break up with a guy, he gets drunk, stands on your lawn, then a cop comes, and that's how he knows it's over. So men don't really need a book.
It's a bit similar in the northwest of England.
Right, yeah. So if law enforcement's brought in, you're like, okay, maybe this isn't going the way I hoped.
Okay. Because Emily thought, you've read the book, so
yes,
could you summarise it from a lady's point of view?
So what Greg does is, as a girl, you kind of make loads of excuses for why a guy's not going out with you. He's not over his ex is a big one.
Yeah.
He just needs a bit of space, he needs a bit of time.
Right.
And according to Greg, that's rubbish.
Right.
And he also things like if he's not calling you, it's quite a big one. But I still convince myself that maybe he's scared. He's intimidated by me as well.
But the bottom line is that it turns out, like the book says, he's just not into you in the first place.
That's right, Greg.
Yeah, that was because all I could think about was like when I was dating and I didn't as soon as I started saying to a girl like, yeah, it's hard right now. My stand-up career is really you're doing open mics. Yeah, it's heavy. You know what I mean? I don't think I can gotta really focus. I just didn't like her because when I met my wife, and that's all I can base it on. When I met my wife, I was like, whatever needs to happen must happen because I shall have you.
It's the opposite.
So whatever
for me.
I need to do.
If I was with a lady, I used to bring them to the gig, and I found that they weren't that interested after the gig. They would just.
I always waited before I.
You brought them along.
Yeah.
But Greg, what about? Okay, here's a situation. So I sometimes have gone out with guys who've been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
It's like a stealth bomber. Mm-hmm. And so I've been friends with them for 2 years, and then they've said, "Oh, I really like you. Let's go out." What does that mean? Be totally honest with me.
Well, I mean, if someone says they like you, I'm going to go ahead and take them at their word. But then, how's it worked out?
We split up, maybe. So.
Do you know what I think? If you don't mind me saying?
Yeah.
I think he's just not that into you.
I love it.
Listen, I'm learning from the master here.
Here's what I think. I mean, we date in the United States.
Yeah.
I don't know what dating is like over here, so I won't pretend to know. But it's very ritualized.
Yeah.
I mean, it started in the 50s, and it became a big deal. People have tried to not do it, but it's a really good way to vet people, is to spend time with them and then decide whether you like them or not. So people know in the States to ask you out, and if they don't ask you out, then they don't really like you. If they just want to come over at 4 a.m, that's different.
But surely shyness comes into this.
Yeah, to a certain degree, but you have to ask yourself: is that the guy that you want to like? Do you want to be with somebody who doesn't want to put forth an effort? Shy people have to eat.
You're so right, Greg.
If they want to eat, you know what? They should be going out with Emily because she has got a fridge, which is always open, and you're always welcome to come and squat at the base of that fridge.
I'm not saying every guy has to be bold, but I mean, there's a way. I have friends that are shy, and they somehow manage to get girls because they manage to let them know that they like them in their own way. Do you know what I mean?
So in other words, do you want to be with a guy who's not going to take the risk in the first place?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
I mean, who wants to be with anybody who isn't completely passionate about what it is that they're doing? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I mean, and that's and again, these are just my opinions. I would. This is the kind of advice I'd give my sister. When people go, "I don't like your book; it's rubbish," I'm like, I really don't care, because I get to do stand up and I have a ska band, so I just don't care. I just put this information out there as my point of view.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
So have you read this book, Gareth? You've got a feminine bent to you. No, you have. No, you are. You're wiry. You've said it yourself. And wiry people are more feminine. I'm wiry. I count myself as the feminine type as well. Would you read a book?
Well, I'm married, so I don't really. I don't need convincing that my wife's not that into me.
Right.
She's.
What about? Have you got any books called "She's No Longer Into You"?
How did you court your wife?
Well, we met at uni, and we were friends before, but there was a moment where we both just realised, hold on a minute, we're hanging out a lot, and this is really good fun, and then we did just spend all the time together.
Yeah, there's no wrong way to start up with somebody. It's just a matter of like turning those situations into long-term relationships. You know, I mean, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Do you know
how I met my wife? This is a true story. We lived together as flatmates, and there was me, her, and one other girl, and we drew straws about who had the little room, who had the medium room, who had the massive room. My wife got the massive room, and I got the box room. 3 weeks later, we were together. Make up your own conclusions from that.
No, I like it.
Absolute
Radio.
We're on Absolute Radio. It's Lee Mack here filling in for Frank Skinner, who is poorly with a sore throat, bless him. And we're taking texts on 8, 12, 15 to find out a good cure for Frank's throat.
Yes.
And have we had any, Ian Gareth?
Suggested cures, 1 spoonful of butter, 1 of sugar, 1 of vinegar, heat it up, melt it all together and then drink it.
That doesn't sound like that's going to work, does it? What, you mean you mix it together or you have them individually?
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
I don't think drinking butter is ever a good idea.
Especially hot butter that's just been boiling. That's got to be there. That's got to give you a sore throat, hasn't it? Burn off your larynx.
I like to get in a bath full of butter. I like to fill a bath full of butter and just get in. That's how I do it. And that clears up everything.
I think I better point out, if you just tuned in, that Greg Behrendt has joined us, and that wasn't Emily that just went psychotic and turned American for no apparent reason. I like to get in a bath of butter! Thank you, Emily. That's
a better picture, though. Emily in a bath of butter is a much better visual.
Greg Behrendt, who is the author of He's Just Not Into You,
He's just not that into you.
Okay, what you mean, is that a review of how the show's going, or...?
Yeah.
He's Just Not That Into You, who Emily has confessed was very excited to meet, has told Emily during that song that squatting near the fridge and eating food means she's got serious problems. And that put a smile on my face, because I thought, he's just not that into you, is he? He's just making it very clear that...
Oh, no, don't put me on that side of the street. She's adorable. I would be totally into her, were I not already, with children and a wife.
Are your kids and wife over here in Edinburgh?
You know what? They're not. And I've got my own flat, and it's really beautiful. And it's right down the street.
After a month by yourself, you'd be pretty much into anyone at this point.
All right, Gareth, there's no need to be... You'd even be into Emily. I mean, really.
Yeah.
It can be quite intense up here.
He's turned so bitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're married, aren't you?
Yeah.
Married with 1 child?
1 child, yeah. We're all in Edinburgh together.
Oh, yes, I'm with my wife and children in Edinburgh. So, unfortunately, me and Gareth won't be available for Emily. But Greg has made it very clear that his wife and children are in America.
Don't worry, you're both safe. It's fine.
He's also said he quite likes the idea of jumping in a bath full of hot butter. And it's been definitely proven that you have some sort of mild eating disorder.
I don't.
We can combine all those things now.
Yeah.
And put them together.
I mean, I will say, if you can't leave the place where the food comes from to eat, if you don't put something on a plate, you have a problem. Like if you're not taking the food and honouring it with a plate and a sit down, but just staying right by where it comes out.
And not only that,
you're in trouble.
Squatting.
Yeah, squatting.
She's squatting next
because
to
you don't want
fridge.
anyone to see you either. If you're ducking from people that aren't there, if you're eating on the floor,
that has
if you're
got to
eating
be
on
a
the floor
problem,
by the
hasn't
place,
That's got to be a problem. The only time you eat food next to the fridge is when you're doing that thing from 8.5 weeks. That's been established.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. You don't do it on your own, do you?
9.5 weeks. You took a week away from them. You tried to speed it up a little bit.
It is. Is it 9.5 weeks?
9.5.
Oh no! We got the shorter version here.
Oh, is that right?
Blokes are a lot quicker in England. It was actually going to be called 8.5 seconds, the original cut, but. And then we thought we'd never stretch it out that long.
Yeah.
But have I been saying 8.5 weeks when it's 9.5 weeks?
No.
It's funny how people text in and say, well, you could gargle with vinegar, but no one's pointed that out. You'd think someone would point that out, wouldn't you? I've said it 3 times. You could have pointed it out. I look foolish now, Emily and Gareth. This is your job to point out the mistakes I
don't know
make.
how many weeks it is.
It's
in the 80s.
It's 9.5 weeks, apparently. But if you see that film, there's no getting around it. It's erotic to see that scene with the food and thing. But the idea of a woman on her own smothering herself in Marmite...
Oh, shut up! Stop going on about it!
Well, you're the one that kept bringing it up.
Once I brought it up.
Oh, I kept thinking about it in my head over and over again. Right. Greg, we've got to go to some music, but it's been great having you in.
Yeah, it's been fun.
You're here in Edinburgh for how long?
A couple more days.
Couple of more days.
Monday,
the show is called Love, Sex, Pudding and Death. Can we get
7:40
tickets
at the Assembly. Yes, there are some tickets available.
Go and see it, it's awesome.
I'm going to come and see it tonight.
Come see it.
I'm going to come and see it. Should we go together, Emily and Gareth?
Let's, yeah.
So I got Gareth in there quickly, so there was no hint of any romance. Gareth, would you like to come with me and Emily? You could be like the kids.
On the spot. Ask him for the artist on the spot.
We're all going to do it tonight. We're all going to go and see Greg Behrendt playing at the Assembly Rooms Love, Sex, Pudding and Death. It's been great having you in.
Thanks for having me.
Greg.
Live from the Edinburgh Festival. Absolute Radio.
We were asking earlier for our listeners to text in the answer to a question that's been probleming me. That's not a word, is it? Probleming me?
Terrible English.
Causing me problems.
It problem you.
It probleming me, right? It probleming me, the pepperami, right? What is it about pepperami where the ingredients say 138% pork? Now, I read this on the pepperami sheath product that I ate, that you didn't like the word sheath.
Yeah, funny that.
Yeah, weird, isn't it, that?
Well, there's an outer package, isn't there?
There is an
That's
outer
the green,
package.
and then there's an inner sheath.
There's no getting around. There's an inner
Let's not
sheath.
get bogged down in the whole
Okay,
sheath
let's
thing.
just get the word sheath. But I was having a pepperami. I took the packet off, and inside was a pepperami inside a prophylactic. Now, what I want to know is how can it be 138% pork? Because that's beyond science. That's like a TARDIS. That means it's bigger on the inside than the outside. The pepperami. But Gareth, who I'm realising in my short stint on this show, is the sort of, I'm not going to say nerd, but you're like...
Don't stereotype me.
I'm not
with
stereotyping
your
you, but
broad brushstrokes.
you are wiry with spectacles. That means you're clever. That is a rule, right? What is the answer to that question, Gareth?
Well, our listeners have been all over it. I did a little bit of research, but they have answered the question as well. So Mark, the painter, says 37.5 grams of pork is used to make 25 grams of pepperami due to curing and drying. So 100. So they use.
Say that again.
Can
Can I just be, even before we start this, right? Can we trust this man? Is he very intelligent? Are we talking... When you say painter...
He's a painter.
Is he an artist or is he a painter and decorator?
Right, I found the same thing. On the
Not that there's anything wrong with being a painter and decorator, but if you are an established, worldwide renowned painter, then you're going to trust the opinions on pepperoni... Actually, it's the other way around, isn't it? If you're a painter and decorator, you're probably eating more pepperami.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Leonardo da Vinci's not going to know about the sheath on the pepperoni packet.
Well, let's assume he's a painter and decorator and knows what he's talking about.
Okay.
So they start with more pork.
I've done the research on it's on the New Scientist website as well.
Right.
And it says basically because of the way they cure it and prepare it, it takes more pork. They have to dry the pork, and so they reduce the amount of they concentrate the pork.
But that doesn't make sense. But then it goes in the pepperami, doesn't it? So
Yeah.
you don't you start with 138% pork. You can't count that as an ingredient because it's reduced. That is like saying in the orange juice there's a whole tree, isn't it?
Well, you have
Contains trees. Well, it started off on a tree. It was a massive tree. And we had to reduce it down to juice. Doesn't make sense. That is not a valid argument. I'm not having that pepperami. It is not a valid argument. Is there any other options, or are they all agreeing with him?
The other option is that it's magic.
Well, I'll have that. I'll take that. Because I want pepperami to be magic. It looks like a wand, doesn't it? I want it to contain...
It does.
Yeah. So it's official. Ladies and gentlemen, it's
A
official
magic, meaty
that pepperami
wand.
is magic. I sound like a northerner trying to get free food, don't I?
You really
I'd
do.
also like to point out there's a little bit of magic in lard, if there's any lard manufacturers listening. Yes. And I'm also a big fan of the tripe.
Absolute
Radio.
Oasis there. Roll with it. And you've heard the news. Obviously, Oasis have split up, apparently, because Noel Gallagher can't get on with his brother.
4 albums too late.
Oh, controversial from Gareth there. They'll have Liam Gallagher turning up at one of his gigs. He's not learnt his lesson. I tell you, they're not split up, have they? There's a row.
Oh, they fall out all the time.
They
don't
fall out.
they?
The Oasis will be back next week. Listen, ticket sales are down on the tour. That's what it is. And they've just pretended.
It's like
I know what
being-
they're up to. I've done that in my stand-up show. I've said tickets haven't sold well.
You've
I've said it
broken
myself.
up with yourself.
I've fallen out with my brother. Says Lee Mack. That didn't make the papers.
It's hardly the
I had to
same
get back
thing,
on stage
Lee.
and do it to 4 people still. It doesn't help. Let me tell you, Noel. You're wasting your time talking about your brother. Maybe it's his brother anyway. Maybe they'll fall out with his other brother, not Liam. Maybe just fall out. Anyway, that's the end. This is the end of the show. This is the end of me filling in for Frank, who's off sick today with a sore throat, and a cure has come in. Soluble aspirin in Tabasco. That can't be right, can it? That's got to hurt. But I've quite enjoyed doing this show, so I reckon if he takes that, it might make it worse and I can do it next week.
Lee, it's been really lovely.
Oh, it's been good. I started off with I thought we had a bit of chemistry, me and you, and we've still got it. But I've felt myself, as the show's gone on, leaning more towards Gareth's feminine bent. Because you have got that slight androgynous...
I'm irresistible.
You're androgynous, and that's always a good look in the modern era for a young, wiry gentleman. Androgyny. I'm quite androgynous, aren't I? I couldn't be less androgynous. I'm northern. I've really enjoyed the show. I hope you get better, Frank, if you're listening. I'll be here for you next week if you can't make it, Frank. That's all I'm saying. So So let's hope he's better. That sounded like I was really hoping he was ill so I could come back. Joe Russell is next. Thanks for having me, and thanks for listening.
This is Absolute Radio, live from the Edinburgh Festival.
Absolute Radio.